Hi, I'm Uncle David. After several months out in the South Pacific preaching in 5 countries, we got back to the U.S. with Aunt Becky, and we found to our delight that some of our GMI missionaries from Europe were here. And we spent some time with them last night, and they were telling us some of their blessings that came after some difficult trials, and we found it to be quite incredible. So we decided it's worth sharing. We decided that this story has to be told, and that it would be an encouragement to you, and that you would want to hear that. Today we have with us Alberto, and we have Ines Vergoch, and with her 2 children, we have Petra here with us, and Michael. Michael is a little bit full of energy today, and we just wanted you to meet the whole family. Alberto, thank you for joining us with Ines to hear, and we would just like to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and where we met originally, and how things developed to go back home to the mission field.
Yes. Well, I'm originally from Serbia. I was born in Belgrade, and we came to States about 21 years ago. And during that time, we worked different things, but we were always interested in health. And during that period of time, Ines and I finished for nutrition, got degrees in nutrition. I finished for massage therapy. And we had this kind of always a need to share the things we learned and to inspire other people to change their lives for better health. And we were looking to different institutions where we could learn these things. And at the same time, I was YouTubing you. And I saw that you were about to speak at one camp meeting in, I believe it was in California, Redding?
In California.
Yeah, and that was over 6 years ago or something.
At that time you were in banking as well.
Yeah, that was still in banking. And Lord really has impressed us to start, I lost the train of thought.
Well, first you were training for after you finished banking, you moved out to UC Pines.
Yes, I moved out to UC Pines, but before moving to UC Pines, we had a little trials there. And I don't know, it would be interesting maybe to share a couple of things, how things developed there. But we left a message to UC Pines, and they haven't called us for 45 days. And one morning I had a devotion, and in the devotion it says, ask your God from highest heights to lowest depths. And I went on my knees, and here we go, the phone call. I got a phone call half an hour after that prayer. UC Pines was calling me back and showing the interest for us to come there. And after that, we thought maybe this prayer was a coincidence, because we never had a prior experience of Lord working that way with us. And we kind of put it on a back burner, but we didn't have a peace about it. And a few months later, we decided, maybe we should just file an application for UC Pines. But after submitting application, which was extensive, I was about to go to post office, and I had the application in one hand, and my cell phone rang in the other. And a friend of mine was offering me a job. And he told me, are you still staying in Los Angeles? I said, yes, I am, as far as I know right now. And yeah, things are working out, and I think it will be good for you. This position will be better pay, less stress. I said, okay, fine, I'm interested. But then I said to myself, you know what, I'll still send this application. I don't know what's going to happen. And I did that. And after 2 days, I received another job offer from another colleague that would raise my salary for 30%. So in 2 days, during 2010, the greatest depression that hit the United States, I received 2 job offers. And weeks passed, and I didn't hear from UC Pines. I didn't hear from all these bank offers, and I started developing doubts. And as I developed doubts, you were preaching at Loma Linda, I think. Remember that time?
I remember that.
And I shared with you, like this silence is going on. And you told me how usually when you start doing the Lord's work, the enemy would throw you a comfort card. Would
Almost
that be
always.
Always. Could be Better car, better job, better house.
Anything but God's work.
Yes. So we had a lot of trials, but we were able to make it to Uchee Pines.
We're going to be discussing some of your training, I think how it led you overseas in a minute. Before we do that, and tell us a little bit, Inez, about yourself and the children.
Yes, I'm originally from Croatia.
Okay. Now, Croatia and Serbia are neighbors,
countries.
and the languages are similar, right?
Very similar,
Okay.
yeah. And there was a war between Croatia and Serbia back in '90s, but that didn't stop us to get married. So it turned out actually for our ministry that it worked out really well, that we're both from different countries and that we can be missionaries in both countries. So it was really exciting for us to go to Uchee Pines. I struggled a little bit. I went through a little crisis before we went to Uchee Pines. I actually was pregnant and I miscarried. So that was really very hard to go, and a lot of changes that happened in Uchee Pines. But it turned out to be a huge blessing. And actually Petra was just turned 2 when we moved there, and Michal was born there. And Lady Dr. Agatha with another...
So you're a Uchee Pines boy, huh?
He's Uchee Piner, yes.
Uchee Piner. Okay.
Yes. So it was definitely a blessing to be there and to learn a lot from them and to be part of their community.
Well, very good. Well, at this point, what we'll do is we'll let the kids have a little break with Aunt Becky to go for a walk, and we'll finish up the story because we're anxious to hear the rest of it.
Yes.
Well, now you've met the Fragoch family. The children are out for a walk now, and Alberto, I wanted to talk to you about, and then Inez also as well. We met again at Uchee Pines. I'll back up slightly just to say that when you were in banking, we talked together. What was interesting, that you shared some of the things that you were wrestling with in banking, and it was very, very interesting. Some years ago, you were in a private bank, in administration of a private bank, and yet you shared with me some of the details of how legislation had been changing so rapidly and forcing private banks into a corner, and then pulled the rug out from under them, so that private banks were folding everywhere by legislation. And when it was legislated downfall of private banking, and private bankers were really suffering at that time, which of course we know now that much of the financial crisis, if not all of it, has been pretty well engineered. But we live in interesting times where people are being placed in boxes and different kinds in order to eventually force the conscience and lead them into total obedience. But as Seventh Adventists, we have a very special mission, and that is God is preaching liberty, liberty of conscience, liberty of religion, and a special message that He's calling all the world to hear and to listen to, because God is preparing the world for Jesus' second coming. And so we're not surprised by those kind of things. Neither are we controlled by those kind of things. We just are aware of the things that are going on around us. You went to Uchee Pines. We visited Uchee Pines during one of our meetings one time there. And at that point, we discussed the possibility of going back to Serbia and Croatia and continuing the work. It wasn't long after that that you made that move. Tell us a little bit about your transition and then the move to Europe.
Well, when we talked about it, Ines and I kind of thought, maybe it's too soon because children are young, and maybe when they grow up, it's going to be easier with them. But we counseled with several people and we prayed a lot, and I think little by little we were making progress in deciding if we're going to go forward to Serbia and Croatia. But it wasn't, again, easy without any struggles. We really didn't know where we were going, except because we haven't lived there for 18 years. And the only thing we had in common was a language. So, but Lord was showing us that He is in it, because we were trying to sell things off that we were kind of gathered for 18 years. And one of the hardest things to sell was our car. And we put it online, see if people would be interested, and we never got a single call. And we started worrying what's going to happen. We can't leave. We have tickets, but we have a car that we need to sell. So what has happened is we received a call from a lady in Arkansas, and she said she's interested in a van, And I said, yes, I'm open to it, but I don't know how we're going to transact. You're over 1,000 miles away. And she said that a gentleman will call you and we'll make arrangements. I said, okay. And he did call that evening. He asked about car specifications, and he was satisfied with it. And I provided him with the address where I am so he can come and see the car. And 5 minutes later, the lady calls me and said, you know what, she said, are you living close to YouTube Pines? I said, yes, I do. Are you a staff at YouTube Pines? Yes, I am. Well, in that case, we don't need to see the car. We are calling from Ouachita Hills College.
Another Adventist self-supporting
yes.
institution to another one.
And it was interesting thing that when we wanted to sell the car, Alberto was always impressed that he wanted the car to be kind of stayed in a mission, you know, to like be used for the.
And that's exactly.
Yes, and you know, like it was just we could just see that the Lord actually orchestrated that.
It will continue working for God.
Yes.
Because when we put the car online, we just didn't put like in Atlanta, we put Chattanooga, we put Birmingham, and all these surround cities. So we're covering maybe over 40 or 50 million people. And out of these 40, 50 million people, we are just
One phone call.
one phone call.
Wow. Okay. So now you saw God working this beautiful miracle out for you. You're getting ready to leave already. You had your tickets in your hand already, and then all of a sudden the pieces came together, and you left.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we kept in touch during this time, but you really didn't know what you were going to find. You really didn't know what permanent situation. We did know that we wanted to open up health work, possible media work, evangelism of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I've never been to Serbia. I've been to Croatia one time, to Pula.
Mm-hmm.
And we still keep in touch with people there. And I'd given you some contacts also there. But really, we didn't know very much, did we?
No, we didn't. And Ines and I always felt impressed because, especially working at YouTube Pines with patients and then guests who come, we really were impressed that health work is the place where the Lord wants us to be. Because in such a short period of time, we could see a lot of changes for good. And we felt, and in Spirit of Prophecy, there are many quotes that says this is the best way to reach masses, reach people through a health work. Yeah.
Now, Inez, where did you move to originally when you went there?
Yes, the only place that we could stay actually was my parents' vacation home. And we came, it was April, so it was kind of warming up, the weather was okay, but this house is not really equipped for somebody to live there, you know, it's a vacation home. So the main problem with this house was
And it's a summer home, really, right? It's not for winter time. It's just
not for winter time.
Okay.
So the major problem was water, supply of water. They have well on the property, but it's very limited supply, especially during the summer months, it dries up. So we didn't have water. So I said to Alberto, well, I don't know, we have to pray about it, see what's going to happen. And, you know, we would take walks with the children to the village and meet local people, and some of them I knew because I was going there as a child. And one specific family was there who purchased one small house, their property, and they noticed us, you know, walking, and they just, you know, we would say hello, and they started talking to us, and they noticed our daughter, Petra, actually. She was dressed modestly, she had skirt on, and they said, you know, this is very unusual to see a child, you know, this age, is dressed so nice, you know. So that's how conversation started. And interesting thing was that these people had well on their property, had abundance of water. And they said, you can just use our water whenever you want, and then we would bring huge barrels, and we would, actually there's a picture of it, we would put their water in our barrels, and then we would dump that water in our well so that we can pump it into the system.
So actually they had enough water in their well that you actually could replenish your well, and from there pump it into the house.
Yes.
My, that's incredible.
So, you know, we became really good friends, and that kind of opened the way of just, you know, introducing ourselves to them, and, you know, were kind of interested in us, and a person had a problem with his shoulder, and then Alberto made him comfrey poultice, and he was like, oh, I've never felt this good, and so we started talking about spiritual things, and soon enough we started praying with them. So we're still friends, we still keep in touch, and you know, I know the Lord will work on their hearts.
Amen.
Yes.
Well, that impressed us last night too. Sometimes when you move to a place, you don't know what you're going to find, and yet you always find need. Yes. There's always people looking for answers, and if you make yourself available, God will lead you to them.
Yes.
Huh? That was beautiful. That was encouraging. Even though you didn't have really water, very much water, for a family of 4.
Right.
But God provided for that need too.
Yes.
And well, then there came. You had
Well,
an opportunity to continue in ministry, but yet you had some health issues to deal with.
Well, just before we jump to that, we were trying to figure out how we're going to support ourselves, because we came there trying to explore the land and see we could find a place where we could live, and but we were traveling a lot, trying to meet the people, go to churches, and during the travel, we would travel a lot from Croatia to Serbia, from Serbia to Croatia. We went actually to one camp meeting, and were able to present the soap that Ines was doing. She also does soap making and all the natural cosmetics. And during that time, we found out that not a lot of people are aware of this kind of health work. We're kind of like a medical missionary pioneers there. And we didn't find a lot of ears to listen to us. And slowly the winter was coming. We were about to, we actually didn't have a place now where to stay, because Ines' parents' vacation house wasn't suitable for winter, especially because of the water and the insulation. But during the summertime, we met a family in Croatia who is in the health food business, and we shared with them how Lord led us, and they felt impressed to invite us to come to their place and spend a winter there. And that was a great place, because we didn't have any other place, but plus because we like healthy foods, there was abundance of healthy foods there.
Yes.
Yes, that's the Boris
Yes.
family.
Yes.
I stayed at his house, their
Yes.
house too. I still have some of the moments of peace videos that we air on television, are some of his beautiful flowers that they have outside in the trees.
Yeah.
And I recorded that, and we've been airing that on some of our television networks. But you went there, and God provided for food, provided a lovely family that you could work with, and you mentioned getting involved in translation.
Yes, we started translating the health books that we were familiar, and we thought it would be very good material for people to read. And we were finding translators, and but we had some issues with translators, because they wouldn't translate as it says in the book, but they would kind of make alternative of thinking how it would be better sounded. We really wanted to translate as it's written.
Like Spirit of Prophecy
Yes,
quotes
yes,
and so on.
yes, yes. But I felt, the Spirit of Prophecy quotes are maybe outdated, and they don't reflect today's day mindset. So we had a lot of struggles with that, especially that book. I think took us like 9 months or 10 months. It was just 100 pages.
Yeah, we feel like that was like our child,
Yeah.
It's 9 months of work and just one book.
Well, it doesn't happen just in foreign languages and translation. Here in this country as well, many people read the Spirit of Prophecy and they go, well, let me reinterpret that. She didn't mean exactly what she said.
Mm-hmm.
What she meant was, this is the way we would do it today, and we change it completely from what it says.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about a word that is changed. We're talking about a whole thought. The whole way of thinking sometimes is
Yes.
different. But when somebody's impressed of God and you write down the thoughts, it's like the Bible as well. It might be an older King James English, but God meant exactly what he said. So you finished that book?
Well, before finishing that book, we had a little crisis. I had a couple of seminars, and then I had a few seminars that were already booked, but Ines started experiencing some health problems. And I think it would be good if you share how it went.
Yes, every time when Alberto had some kind of lecture or anything, I would have horrible headaches. I was just not capable to do anything.
You mean at lecture time?
Yeah, just before he was supposed to leave, I just couldn't move. I was just in a bed, and I had to take care of the children, and then it was just so much stress on everybody. So that's how it started, having like these headaches. And I still had problem with my skin. I had problem with my skin back in UG Pines, but it got intensified as well. And as we were finishing this book, we were actually in Serbia, because it was easier for us and more affordable to publish them in Serbia, print them there. and he just went to do the last editing of the book. And that was the most horrible headache I had. When he left, our son was sleeping, taking a nap, and I was with Petra, just laying down, couldn't move. And I said to her, just pray, you know, Mommy can't do anything.
So these skin problems were...
Yeah, well,
your
there's
hand?
actually a picture. It was really...
Oh, the skin would break,
Yeah, it would
dry.
just break and bleed, and, you know, so it was really hard to do anything.
Quite
in the
painful,
house.
huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was painful too. So that's how everything started with those headaches. But then, you know, Alberto came back from the editor, and my headaches just went away. You know, I could totally feel that I was just, you know, somebody has put something on me, you know, like this pressure. And, you know, every time we did something, you know, for the Lord, you know, it was just, you know, we would get like slammed with something.
And it's interesting, sorry to interrupt, we being health reformers, we were always attacked on a health point.
Yes, and you know, and you start like wondering, you're like, Lord, we're trying to do your work, you know, we're medical missionaries, but yet we have all these problems, you know, and you're thinking, how are people going to accept what you're saying if you're sick yourself? But then we really figured out that this is where enemy attacks, you know, where you work, what's your strength, that's where he wants to attack. So actually my health got even worse. I started feeling really weird with my feet. I lost sensation in my feet, and it went all the way up to like up to here, I guess.
Your waist?
My waist, yes. And I just couldn't really feel how to walk. I couldn't like if I didn't
No
look.
sensations at all?
No, nothing. Just really numb and like feeling of like if it's swollen, but it wasn't swollen.
Now, leper patients many times lose sensation on a permanent basis, but I have a little test. Maybe I can do the test with you.
Sure.
Put your finger like this, here, and then go like this, and you can feel like one dead finger.
Yeah.
Can you feel it? Try with Alberto. Can you feel the dead finger?
Yeah.
That's kind of what it feels like. You can actually feel the leg there, but you can't feel any
Sure,
sensation.
yeah, that's how it felt.
But your whole body from the waist down.
Yeah. So that was really scary. You know, we were in Croatia back then, and then we decided to go to Serbia and to do some testing. And I went to this testing. They were testing my feet, and you know, with needles to see, you know, some points if it's going to react or whatever. And they said it's nothing in your spine. It must be in your head. So that was really scary. And we went for MRI, and the result came that I have some lesions in the brain, and that it's possibly MS. So that was just
Yeah.
I remember you called me and told me.
Yes.
Because we would Skype every once in a while to give update. When you told me that, it was like, that's a major slam.
A
Yes.
major slam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, I just didn't know what to think, what to feel. At the same time, I started having heart problems. And I remember one night, you know, I was just laying in a bed, thought I'm gonna die. You know, like everything was just, my whole system was shutting down. And you know, I know I prayed for days. I couldn't sleep. And then I prayed, and I said, Lord, you know, if I'm supposed to die, it's okay. And I just want to have confirmation that you're with me, that you're going to be with my family. And I had this peace, you know, I never felt this peace. And I realized after, you know, all these tests that have been done, and diagnosis was not confirmed, but we just put it in our Lord's hands, and I had peace with it. It's like, you know, the Lord knows, and I feel that as long as He needs me, He'll keep me. He'll keep me in good and perfect health. And He has. He's been keeping me in good health. The only thing that we had through all this situation that was really, really hard on us and brought a lot of stress on top of what we were going through were our parents. Actually, when we were driving back from Serbia, we stopped by at my parents' house in Croatia. And my mother was really, had a really hard time with diagnosis and possible diagnosis. And she actually told me that, you know, she can't deal with
Your
this
parents are
anymore.
not believers, right?
Well, my mother is.
Your mother is.
My father is not.
Not. And
No.
and Albert, your parents?
My mom is, and my father is not.
Okay.
Yeah, so we kind of
Okay.
have
It's the same
similar
combination.
Okay.
positions, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so my mother was really convinced that is because of our lifestyle choices, that this is the reason why this is all happening to us. And she just couldn't accept that, and she said, you know, if you're gonna choose to live this way, then I can't support you, pretty much. And you know, I didn't know what to say, because it was the first time that, you know, I had this kind of situation with my mother. She was always there for me. And now when I needed the most, you know, the support, like this happened. So I just prayed, didn't know what to say, and I was just really shaking inside. But the Lord gave me such a strength, and every time she said something, I would give her some kind of verse from the Bible. and I prayed with her, and she really teared up, and I just felt that impressed that Lord will take care of it, and He did. She realized certain things, and she's supporting us now. So.
This is very hard.
Yes.
I should say both ways. Hard for people who choose to follow the Lord when family doesn't
Yes.
understand. That's a real
Definitely.
sensitive part.
Yes.
But on the other hand, the families are watching closely, and when God does work through you, even though He carries you through the valley, they don't understand and they
Yes.
criticize, but eventually they also see the other. They see it coming through, and all of a sudden it changes lives.
Right.
But for missionaries who have the parent support and family support, there's a lot to be grateful
Yes.
for.
Yes.
What about you and your side?
Well, before we left Serbia and going to Croatia, my dad really wanted to talk to me. And I said, okay, I'll come to you. And I spent an hour there. And he was really mean. I don't think he was mean because he really was mean, but he thought that is the only way to kind of shake me up, to get me out of this la la land lifestyle, and telling me that I should put my act together, that I cannot drag my family from one country to another, not having a place where to live, and doesn't support my lifestyle, and says, if people would ask me, I would tell them that you're not treating your children right, and that they should be taken away from you. And during all that time, I really kept quiet because I didn't feel like there was an argument going on. I was always under the impression that he doesn't really understand the Lord's work, and it's not his fault. So, unfortunately, that was the last time I saw him alive, because shortly after he suddenly passed away. So, it was kind of, on a sad way we departed.
So you had family threats, difficulties. Basically, like you say, it's probably just they're trying to figure out what combination will work to get you to change.
Yes.
Not because they were that way, but because they're trying to explore different ways of getting you to think twice.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think that's one way they were thinking to help us.
Mhm.
That's way of helping us. But I know that Jesus doesn't work with people to threats, to fears, and to all kind of things.
And so you're going through this very, very difficult stress. A lot of missionaries experience, as soon as they launch out for God, all of a sudden it's like all hell breaks loose.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened to us.
Did you feel like, Lord, we just came to work for you, and suddenly we're dealing with all these major issues, one after the other, bang, 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 bang.
Yes. But I think Lord really wanted us to teach us, to rely on Him and to have a relationship with Him. And I know when we went to mission field, we were really like holding on to you and like, oh, David, and we had to realize that even though we can find support in you, like with prayers, and that we can constantly.
I was available whenever you needed to
yes,
talk to me, but
at the same time.
I wouldn't carry you through.
No. So we had to learn to just trust the Lord and just
Amen.
that
Amen.
He's the one who's going to provide it. He's going to lead us through the storms.
We can take a temporary pause right there to just reinforce that.
Yes.
Sometimes people have missionary heroes. For many people, it happens to be me. For others, it's others. I had a missionary hero when I grew up. And we want to be like them. We want to work for God like them. But the temptation exists that even though you're following an example of somebody who has dedicated their life, like Joshua followed in the steps of Moses,
Mm-hmm.
but he was only Moses' assistant. Eventually, when he died, he was a servant of the Lord.
Right.
So every one of us, eventually, in following that path, has to learn to depend directly on the Lord. Is that what
Yes.
was happening to you?
Yes,
He was
definitely.
teaching you.
Definitely, yes.
And I think a majority of the problems that we were facing is like they knew that we were that GMI was sending us, and they said, well, David Gates, like why is he not helping you? And they're all looking like, well, if he has sent you, then he should help you. And a lot of times we didn't know what to answer them, because we know that you also depend on the Lord. So.
Yes.
And a lot of times also people get discouraged because they look up to the men and not up to the Lord, and they depend on a man to provide their needs. And I'm glad that you know it happened this way, because I think now I hope people won't understand, but misunderstand this. But it's kind of like having crutches. You know, crutches. You never are able to fully.
As long as you depend on men or
Right.
men's organizations or institutions
providing for you.
providing for you,
Yeah.
you're still on crutches.
Yes.
Now, with all this family situation, tense family situation, and yet you see God leading, He gives you peace when you ask Him for it. He helps your mother to begin to understand. Your family goes through this difficult transition. At the same time, you went back and for a period of time with the Boda's family again.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you found a very interesting situation. This was very interesting because the health work again came in to play a very key part there.
Yes.
Yes, he actually had a sister who was suffering from terminal disease, and she's been suffering with that for past couple of years. But at this point, it kind of spread to different organs, and
An unbelieving sister. Then.
non-believing sister. But
Okay.
she was she knew about the message, but she never accepted it.
Never embraced it like
Okay.
fully.
And they approached us, and I asked, you know, if he would be willing to help her, you know, through natural remedies and hydrotherapy, juices, sunning, exercise, diet. And we said, you know, we'd love to. You know, what else we can do? You know, we'll help as much as we can. And when she came to Boris' place, we noticed her physical state was really impacted. You know, she couldn't even have a meal without moving, and
She was in a
lot of pain.
Very, very uncomfortable and a lot of pain. She wasn't able to sleep for days. It was really, really hard. So
For last month, before she came, for 2.5 months, her average sleep was like an hour or two.
yes,
I mean, she was worn out emotionally and
exhausted,
physically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exhausted.
Exhausted. And she was having to eat on the floor almost so she could move continually and take a bite and move again and take a bite and move again like
Yeah,
that. Hardly
yeah.
being able to feed herself.
Yes.
And then what did God impress you or show you?
Well, I just was applying what I've learned in Yuchi Pines and all the books and all the things, and you know, we put her on juices for 12 days, and during that time she was sunning and exercising, and after a week, and we were putting poultices on her arm because she was experiencing.
What kind of poultices?
It was a charcoal poultice with
Okay.
different other different herbs, but mainly charcoal. And when we put it for first night, when we put it after 7 days, she had a full night of sleep, and she was just like she's a new person, you know, having 8 hours of sleep after 2.5 months. And slowly after, she was really starting to feel better, and after maybe 2 weeks, she borrowed Ines's bike, and
Yeah, she just said, "Can I have your bike?" And I said, "Sure." I just thought like she's gonna do like a little circle around. She went.
She
and,
took
like, she
off.
was gone like for 15 minutes. I was like, "Is she okay? Where is she?" She's coming back. She's like a child, you know, like so happy, and it was just really nice to see her like, you know, really enjoy life again. And you know, even though like things weren't perfect, but she felt much better.
Well, you mentioned last night that many times the physical treatment of patients that are very, very severe, in some cases they're healed, in other cases following the laws of health help them improve so much that they can get their life back together again. And even though not all of them recover, at least it shows them God is love and God has cared all along, and their past lifestyle, God still acts in mercy even then. And
Yeah.
she eventually passed away, but she had a relapse into her old lifestyle. Then she came back again, but one thing she did was she said, "I love Jesus." She just held on to Jesus all the way to the end. Right?
yes,
Yeah,
she
got
decided to get
baptized.
baptized shortly after, and that was really a joy for all of us.
Yes.
Oh, how
Yeah.
special!
We should be balanced. Of course, natural remedies are powerful, but when you are treating people and trying to help them out, it's always important the outcome. It's in her case was preparing her to die in Christ. So that is one of the things like they really stress about, how to prepare people to die.
You know, during this time, I keep in touch with you once every several months, or maybe 6 months sometimes. Most recently, you were in Switzerland, I was in Germany, and we're going to be talking about that toward the end. But we tried to keep in touch. But I remember thinking that I wonder where they're now. Are they in Serbia? Are they in Croatia? Are they in Croatia? Are they in Serbia? And you would tell me what's happening, and I was just going, man. I've rarely had missionaries that had to bounce back and forth so much, and family situation on one side, family situation, economic situation, and I was like the variables. I said, Lord, you have to show them the way. I'm not in a position. You haven't put me in a position where I can do anything to help other than pray, and pray we did.
Yes.
But your dream was always to find a place where you could set roots, because we talked about several options and another option and another option, and they never worked out. But interestingly enough, when you'd gone through all these storms and all through the water and through the fire, and the Lord held on to you all the way through, then all of a sudden, some very interesting property options happened.
It was a special property, but just before we go to that, I have to go back to where we spent another winter. And during the summertime, we were able to finish another book. It was a book that Dr. Agatha wrote about charcoal, and Vale family helped us with that. And after that, Ines had a little cookbook that she was working on. So we had 3 books right now. And during that time, another family heard about us and what we are doing, and they expressed the interest of meeting us. And once they met us, they said, we are in the process of opening a health club. And it's not a health club like a gym, but it's more a club where people will come once a week and talk about different health topics. So they said, we would like you to come and speak on our opening day. And I said, I'll be more than happy to. So after that speaking engagement, they said, we would love to hear, for you guys to come one more time. So we did come one more time, and during that time we found that special place. But they said, we would really love if you could stay here and work with us. And we said,
How long did you stay there?
Well, we stayed for a year. We're still
significant.
somewhat
Kind of
period of
still
time.
there.
Yeah, you're still kind of there. Okay.
Yes.
But it's interesting how Lord worked in that place, because that place is it's a particular place because it really has a strong Catholic presence. The people are very, very strong Catholics there, and Lord put us there for a reason. And I would like Ines to share, how He opened their certain doors.
Yes, well, we had lectures in the health club, which was part in the church. They had like a little room where people would meet. But not a lot of people would come, just because it was in the Seventh-day Adventist church. And I said that maybe they should consider just doing it in a city, somewhere in a public place. And they said, oh, there's no way we'll be able to get a place to rent out, because they know we're Seventh-day Adventists. And I said, just pray, Lord can do miracles. And they were just kind of like almost laughing at me, like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. We've been living here, we know what we're talking about. And, I started praying. I said, Lord, I know you can open the door. And sure enough, after a week, just a week, we got a call from the director of a cultural center in the city, and she said, I've been seeing what you're doing on Facebook, I follow the page on the Facebook, and I love the lectures that you're holding, and we want to offer you for free to just come and do it for public, and we'll even, advertise it for you, so you don't have to worry about it. You just bring whoever you want to bring to speak, and we'll have it there. So these are some of the photos that we did in the actual club in the church. But then as we started working...
These are some of the things you prepared?
Yeah,
there?
we're just teaching them, some healthy foods, how to prepare healthy foods.
Okay.
We're juicing with them, and children are always involved. They love this hands-on stuff. So that was really fun for the whole family. And now this is the cultural center. The first lecture I had was about making natural soaps. And people really liked it and enjoyed it. So then a month after that, they wanted to have one more lecture. So then we had I got another lecture about self-control, and that was really interesting, because nobody knew about, like, what is self-control? What are you talking about? And temperance. And they're like,
interesting.
What
Those
is
words are
temperance?
strange. Self-discipline,
Like temperance in what? And then they would say, temperance in everything. So, I held that lecture, and, with these soaps that we were making, we were able to even go into like fair, like they had a city fair, and we would sell soaps there and get flyers about the club, and many people knew about it now, and so it's really like it's growing, and the other local cities started inviting us. So it's just this whole mission is just kind of growing.
Wow.
Yes.
And it's still growing.
Yes.
Very nice. Well, time is running along, and this story was very fast-starting last night, but it was a little bit more detailed.
Yes.
There's two items I still want to address, which are highlights. One is during this time, then there was a property you talked about earlier.
Yes.
That we were talking about, referring to. Tell us a little bit briefly what happened with that, how it came about, the story led in with that property, and then we want to talk about the last final crisis you just went through.
Okay, so Lord led us to this property, and well, how it happened is I went through a lecture, and Ines found one property that I was about to see, and I went to see that property, and the realtor told me, is this something you like? I said, well, I told her that what we were looking for, something in the nature, surrounded with woods, and has an orchard. And she said, I just might have something like that. And when we went there, actually I went there, and I saw it, like I really thought, like, this is it. This must be it. This is a sanitarium it's going to be one day. And I told Ines that night, we found a place. And half of the things I didn't know that existed on this property, my first visual was, this is it. But later on, I discovered many other blessings.
Wow. Yes. Some of the blessings you mentioned were fruit trees, abundance of water, several buildings.
Yes.
Already built already on there,
Yes.
so building permits are not needed. They already exist already. You can improve those buildings.
Exactly.
And a large house.
Yes.
A large house. Well, this is exciting. Let's see if here we see a picture of the property. It's a gorgeous property, we can tell, and we have an older building there that can be fixed up, and it doesn't require a building permit, but it could be fixed up with a little bit of work there. It must be. Did you just clean the property here, or
yeah? This property was really cleaned for this picture, but when
it was high weeds when you first saw
high
it.
weeds up to 6 feet.
Is that why you were able to acquire it for just a fraction of the cost?
Well, that's one of the reasons, but the other was we talked with the owner about 3 conditions he needed to meet, and 2 of them were like some local permit issues. And the last one was the road we were about.
The right of way. To be
right away, yes. He didn't really officially have it, but nobody technically could prohibit him from going there. And he couldn't obtain that. And we found a little way of escape, trying to negotiate price even lower because of this little problem. And he kind of agreed the price. And 4 days before of our final deal, I had a dream where I'm in a room with lawyers and accountants, and I'm handing in the funds, and he's counting the funds, and he says, there is not enough. And then I take the funds and I give it to somebody else, and that other person counts it and says, what are you talking about? There's not enough. There's 400 euros more. And that's how I woke up. And 4 hours later, I'm receiving a call from a lawyer saying, I'm just writing a draft here about the final contracts, and I just want to put a price. And I told him the price. And I said, okay, I'll call and confirm with the owner. And owner calls me back and says, I could never sell you for that price. I must have been on some kind of drugs, or I have been drunk, but I cannot sell my grandfather's place for fraction of the cost. I said, I cannot sell it. And we've been already with him back and forth so many times, and we just said, okay, I guess we won't buy it.
It took like 6 months, right?
6
We
months.
started like negotiating with him. It was 6 months, and it was always back and forth, you know, with the price, with this, with that. It was always issue. And we were so stressed already, you know. It was just a lot of stress on us. You know, didn't know, are we buying it? We're not buying it. Then we pulled back a couple times, and then okay, we're interested again. So it was really, really hard.
But back and forth with him, playing table tennis, and we just said, you know, I think Lord probably has something better for us at that stage. And a few hours later, Laura calls me and says, you know what, he agreed to lower the price, but it's not the price that we officially agreed. I said, no, you know, we're not going to buy it. It's like, why we should be punished for his mistakes, for him being drunk or drugs. So 2 days passed, and he said he lowered the price again. I said, well, that's still not the price what I was dreaming, you know. And I didn't tell that to a lawyer, but I said no. And then he called again and said, well, he decided to lower price one more time. And this time it was only off by 100 euros of what I was dreaming. So it was Sunday morning. I'm about to make a phone call to a lawyer, and we had a schedule to sign papers on Monday. And I said to Ines, you know, I need to lower for another 100 euros. And Ines was like, come on, it's only 100 euros, you know, you're not gonna, you know, nickel and dime here. And I said, well, that's how it was in a dream. And I called the lawyer. The lawyer is like, oh, these are punies. I'll give you 100 euros. You know, let's just get this thing done.
Let's not argue over such a small amount.
Yes, yes. And I said, no, I want you to do it. And he said, okay, I'll call him. So he calls the owner, and the owner says, okay, I will do it for another 100 euros down. So actually, we got a price what Lord showed me in a dream.
Wow. Well, that gives confidence that God is leading when you can see Him leading like that. So all of a sudden you're excited. Things are flowing through. You sign the papers. The property is now a dream is coming true. And at this point, you're not expecting what happened next. At the time that you're beginning to dream of big things, and now you're going to carry out the development of the property. You're going to carry out the vision of the medical work that you had dreamed of doing, and all of a sudden, something happened very unexpected.
Yes. Just after we signed the papers and I had a lecture in one of the towns, I experienced some problems with my vision. And it was just for me it was a minor, because I was like, I just don't see like one part of my finger in some corner of an eye. So Ines told me, like, don't come back to me unless you go and examine yourself. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And after examination, they have diagnosed me that I have a very rare type of a tumor in my eye. And it turns out to be like 5 out of a million people get it. So it's like, oh, how lucky am I? And through a friend who was able to get me additional examinations in a clinic, they also concluded that it is a type of a tumor, and but they said they couldn't do anything more because I don't have a health insurance. And my brother kind of stepped in, who continued my father's business, and said, you know, I will put you on papers so you will be able to get a health insurance, and you know, I would pay him everything that I was owed to him, you know, for having me there on papers, you know, like, I don't know how much was it now, but and they said that they wrote a draft, and they said, you know, in Serbia, the only thing we can do for you in this kind of cases is take the eye out. But in other countries, they have another treatments that are as successful. So they sent me to Switzerland, and that's where I was receiving my surgery and the treatments to take care of the tumor. But I really think in all these 2 years that we were under a lot of stress, because as a medical missionary, you know, talking about, we were really doing all the hydrotherapy, juicing, you know, healthy foods, exercise, we're trying to do the best we can to keep our health. And then, we're always attacked at a health point. But at the same time, we were really under a lot of stress. And I do remember a Spirit of Prophecy quote where it says, 9 out of 10 diseases are in mind. It's just the stress we cause ourselves because we don't know how to deal with difficult situations. And it's not just our circulatory system that works. Our emotions and things that are affecting our mind. Sometimes when we have like butterflies in our stomach, it's up here that causes butterflies. And we hear some stories. We get goosebumps. All these things are also circulating in our body. So I really think this tumor was caused by a lot of stress that I was experiencing.
It's amazing the kind of challenge stress places on our bodies, huh?
Yeah.
All the defense mechanisms and everything that we need to learn. We have a lot to learn about trusting our Heavenly Father more and letting Him carry many of our burdens.
Yes, and the problem was I was really taking everything that was going on personally. And like I was owning it. Till I learned later on that it is not my work, it is the Lord's work. And the Lord is the one who is suffering because of all these troubles. It's not me. And as He said, put His cares upon Him, and because He cares for you. And my yoke is easy. I was carrying the yoke.
Now, do you have any slides or anything of that time? You went to Switzerland. I remember I made arrangements with you. Many will remember Marcus Yaudas, the past president of OCI. He is our partner with GMI, one of our board members. You asked me if I knew anybody in Switzerland, and I said, well, we have a partner there, and he can be able to keep you. I talked to him, and he said, oh, sure, I'd be happy to have Alberto here.
Yeah.
And you went to Switzerland, and in Switzerland, they did have a different type of treatment, but they had to completely immobilize your head, immobilize your face, immobilize your eye, everything. I
would just warn the viewers, this is one of the photos that some photos are a little graphic, and if somebody who doesn't have a tummy for it, maybe you should just kind of skip fast forward to this part with photos. But yes, they had to immobilize my head, and they had to create a jaw bite. What they were doing is a proton therapy. It's a special radiation therapy that doesn't like radiate whole your body. It just goes. It
releases its energy at a specific point where the tumor is, and it doesn't radiate the tissues around it.
Yes.
Very, very. And Loma Linda does that also. But you do have to immobilize the area.
Yeah.
So you have some more there. Let's see them. Now you have a bite there, okay. Then you have to create a mask so that your head wouldn't move.
Yes. Like mask that's composed with wax or something.
With wax, okay.
And this is the picture is a little scary because they really stretch your eyelids and to expose the tumor. So, but it was very painful because the eye was still swollen, and you had to be in this position for a good 10-15 minutes. And the only thing I could think of is just praying, because your tears are running and you cannot wipe it. Your saliva is making things to swallow, but you cannot swallow, because if you swallow, you're going to move your head by inch or millimeter, and that will offset the proton, because everything has to be in a millimeter range. Yeah. So, but if you look at it from other perspective, you would never think I'm in any kind of distress.
From the other angle.
Other angle. So a lot of times depends from what angle we look at the problem.
This is a very good way to take our problems, and that is look at it from the fact that from one way it looks terrible, from the other way it's a more positive point of view.
Yes. So after that treatment, I came back and we did additional screenings, and it appears the tumor is getting smaller. And another thing was interesting, before I went to Switzerland, I needed to do all the blood work, all the exams, all the liver scans, and everybody was looking at it, they were just fascinated. They're like, I've never seen somebody in such a perfect health this kind of a problem. Like,
well, you know, just recently, just in the last short period of time, I was notified that one of our missionaries was just diagnosed with rather sizable cancer as well, and I just said, well, this is your example is of how God is dealing with you. Is a very perfect example that no matter what the issues are, in your case, Inez, with your headache and your not paralysis but lack of sensation, your nervous system, and now a tumor behind the right eyeball. All these things, basically, no matter, they're life-threatening. It could definitely, you felt like you were going to die, and you didn't know what was going to happen, and you just place yourself in, just as the door, God is opening all the doors, suddenly opening the doors, and suddenly you find these life-threatening things happening.
Yes.
But God is carrying you through even at this time.
Yes.
He carried you through, and you know He's carrying you through now.
yes. And we know we're in His hands, you know. And whatever it happens to us, you know, He allows it for some reason. And but after that, we came back to Europe. I mean, to Croatia right now. And then what has happened is I needed to go for another a checkup after a month or two. And we decided, you know, we'll try to stay at the house, even it wasn't in a living condition. But we decided, okay, we'll try to make it the best and stay at the house and just in Serbia.
Right. The one you just bought.
Yeah, I just bought, but it wasn't in function at all. It was just a abandoned place, and we tried to get the hot water going, and so we get a water heater ready. But we turned the hot water. We found out that one of the pipes just broke up.
So.
It was in the kitchen, actually downstairs. We had a leak, and then we decided. The plumbers came and they said, if you want to do anything in this house, you have to exchange the plumbing system because it's very old.
I can see that.
Yeah, so that's the one that we had leak, and then they started like, you know, just taking the tiles out, and the whole house was total mess. And I said to Alberto, we were supposed to stay just 4 days, and we packed for 4 days, and it ended up to be 2 months. The Lord was just leading step by step. We were, you know, doing the bathrooms first the plumbing system, and of course when we exchanged the piping, you know, we had to put the tiles in, and so we were just thinking, you know, this is going to be a new center, lifestyle center, and we, you know, we just started working. There's like a new bathroom there, and then we had the heating problem, then we exchanged that, and then we had the roof, we had to exchange the roof. And that was a story, a very interesting story, because we had a couple estimates of people who came and gave us estimates, and everybody suggested to go with one company that had a little bit higher price, but everybody said, oh, these are the best people to go with. And another team was much cheaper. And
this is the team we are seeing right now.
Yes, and we really didn't know which team to go, and we said, well, we'll just take it to the prayer, you know, take it to the Lord and see what happens. And the next morning I asked him, do you have anything? He said, no. Do you have anything? No. I said, well, the Lord will show us. And that day we have to tell which team we are going. And
but the first team had a condition.
Yes, they had a condition that they'll lower the price a little bit, still not as low as the other team, but if Alberto goes working on a roof with them, just to help. And he said, okay, we can do that. And then Boris's wife, actually from Croatia, called us and she said, are you okay? Is everybody okay? She was so in distress. And I said, yeah, what's going on? And she said, you know, I actually had a dream last night, and Alberto fell from the roof, and I was pulling him out, and my arm is hurting, and we were both just like, you know, couldn't believe it.
See, I didn't fall from the chair, from a ladder, from a car. I just fell from a roof.
And you had to make a decision whether you were going to work on the roof or not.
Yes,
right.
yeah.
That was the moment.
So I think Lord showed us here who He wants us to go with.
So we took the team that was cheaper, more affordable, and we're so glad we did, because they turned out to be a blessing to us. You know, they're really nice workers. They work with us even now, and you know, as how we would move step by step, the Lord will provide funds.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were supposed to go to Serbia and pay these workers because they were working while we were back in Croatia. Still had some lectures that we had to have, and we are supposed to pay them, we don't have money. And then the day before we go to Serbia, the funds come in. So the Lord took care of it. We were able to do so much in the house, and we just going by faith, every single step of the way.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, one of these days I hope to have the privilege of coming to visit you there.
Yes, that would be
And,
great. We would love to.
and,
Becky
And
yes.
hopefully we'll see some of the work. That by that time, maybe the patients will be there, some of them.
Yes.
It won't be long. People will start showing up.
I'm sure.
And then you
Sure,
find
we'll
out you
have
had
a plan.
an Adventist neighbor just down the road, a few hundred
Yes.
meters, and that you didn't know about.
No.
And so, truly, God is opening the way. Well, we wanna summarize. I'd like to find out what are some of your bigger needs. You have to fix up the place and you have to start work. Are you still needing people to come work with you? Is that what human resources, financial resources? What are some of the things that you're praying for?
Well, we're praying for there's additional land that we can purchase
Right next door.
right next
Yes.
door, so we can extend
A sizable piece, in fact.
a
right?
sizable
Okay.
piece, like as almost as big as our piece,
Okay.
and that would really give us more space for gardening and for housing. And so we are also praying that we can have enough funds to fix that little building that we already have,
Mhm.
that we don't need a permit to we can fix that place, so we won't have to stay with the patients, in the same house, so they can have their own privacy. So these are those essential needs, and some equipment that we can maintain the place.
Okay. So resources will help
Resource.
to finish up some of
Yes.
those things.
Yes.
And it's interesting how Lord,
Mhm.
just before we close, has everything already planned ahead. Because when we were purchasing this place, we didn't know who are our next door neighbor. But we also didn't know about who is our local pastor. And when we were talking to Dr. Agatha, she said, your work will only be successful if you can find a minister who will work with you. And in those 2.5 years, we really didn't find anyone who would work with us. Because in most cases, they would think we are either fanatics or just somebody who is or extreme or something like that. But when we met this pastor and he came to our property and he looked at the place and said, this is just as it says in Spirit of Prophecy. And if you need halls to lecture, anything you need, you have my full support. And it took 2 years for this prophecy to unveil, but it did happen. And then we learned that just maybe less than a mile lives one of our sisters who worked in one of the centers in Russia or Ukraine. And we didn't
have help, definitely. I will definitely need more help.
We'll definitely need more help, yeah.
But
But as housing, we get more housing.
You
and
need the
Yes.
infrastructure, then you need the help, and then you
Yes.
can start doing the work.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there is no such a thing that exists in that Balkan region. So
Well, there isn't any other health work in that area?
no,
No, there's no sanitarium.
there's no sanitarium. Yeah.
Well, God is using you to break into very needy areas
Yes.
where the health work can open up the door to the gospel. Jesus is coming very soon,
Amen.
and there's a great work to be done. And of course, this is actually only the beginning.
Yes.
Even if it were 10 times bigger than that, it still wouldn't be enough, would it? Because there's still much more to do. But God begins with humble beginnings.
Yes.
First, He teaches us the lessons,
Yes.
and then He plants us like a tree, and then the tree grows, and then its branches cover out a little further than the little shadow it started with. And Alberto, Inez, we're very happy that you could be here. Thank you for
Thank you
being
for
willing
having
to
us.
Thank you.
share your story. We believe that if what God does for one person, be it me, be it another missionary or somebody else, or even heroes of the faith from the past, He will do for somebody else too. So it's good to share our stories,
Yes.
because once people see what you've gone through and the life-threatening things you went through and then that you're going through, and at the same time moving forward with confidence, it means that when they go through those kind of experiences, they can also count on God's special care all the way through.
Yes. Yes.
Any last pieces of advice or anything that you would like to leave with us before closing?
Well, you want to share something, and then we're going to close, and I'll share a couple
Well,
of things.
I just, for me, the experience was, lesson that I learned was just to let go and trust in the Lord, and you get so much many more blessings that way, you know.
Learn to rest in His
Yes,
care.
yes. You know, you're more stress-free. You know, it doesn't mean that you're going to be successful every single time. I can't say I'm successful every single time, but you know, all these things that happen to us are definitely helped, so we can reflect. We can always say, you know, in this situation, Lord led, and He promised us that He will never leave us or forsake us. So, you know, we need to trust His promises.
Thank you. What about you, Albert?
Well, for me, I think it's just to reflect on how we are really to depend on the Lord. And even if the bad situations come, He allows that for a certain reason to develop our character. And some people in these 2.5 years thought we were abandoned from the Lord. But Lord's success is different from a human point of success. He really wants to change your character in reflection of His image. And by all these trials, you really start connecting more with Him and being on more knees. And in those situations, you're more in need. So in that constant need gives you, I could say,
Closer to Him.
Closer to Him, yes. So, and this is to prepare us for the times that are coming. Because in very short time, things will turn around. And if we are not ready to depend on Him right now, it's going to be hard for us to depend in crisis.
Thank you. Well, Uncle David has been very delighted to be here with Alberto and Inez Brigoch. I really didn't know how to pronounce that name. They had to tell me. My Spanish language did not prepare me to do that. But once you know how to do it, it's okay. But we're grateful for the stories or testimonies they shared with us today. And we can summarize by the following. Number one, when you launch into the mission field, it's really a learning experience. You're not going there as experts, you're going there to learn. Yes. And the biggest lesson to learn is learning how to depend totally on God. It's well to work together. It's good to trust on each other for faith and prayer, but your final support and final guarantor of success is God directly. And it's on Him that you need to learn how to depend. Once you do that, the next thing we learn is that you may have to go through life-threatening diseases, or maybe it's like some missionaries, they actually lay down their life. That's God's problem. That's not our problem. That's He decides. But we just trust Him, learning to trust Him with all these difficulties, so that our Heavenly Father will take care of us. A little child doesn't worry about where he's going to eat tomorrow or the payment next month. They just trust their parents, and we need to learn to trust day by day on our Heavenly Father, who will carry us through all those difficult times. And thirdly, once we learn those lessons, then God can use us in proportion to the amount we allow the Holy Spirit to possess our minds. That's how much God can use us. So we need to learn to be totally controlled by God, depend on Him, trust Him, and then He can plant His work wherever He sends us. He will take care of us. He will carry us through. And God's work begins humble, and then it grows. And it's going to grow into a loud cry. Habakkuk 2:14 says that the knowledge of the glory of God will fill the whole earth like waters cover the sea. It's going to go very soon, all over the earth. And God is looking for people who will obey Him, who will trust Him, and who will launch into the deep. If you would like to be a missionary someday, there are many opportunities around you. If you ask Him, God will show you. If you're interested in working with Gospel Ministries International, you can apply online at gmivolunteers.org. gmivolunteers.org is one of the many ways that you can serve the Lord. And right where you are, or overseas, or if you can't go overseas, you can support those that are. If you're interested in supporting also the work in Serbia and Croatia, and the work being done by Alberto and Inez, you can also just support them by sending a check to Gospel Ministries International, P.O. Box 506, Collegedale, Tennessee, 37315. And you can just mark it on there, Serbia, Croatia work, or you can put Alberto and Inez, and we will make sure it gets to them. Thank you for praying for them. God bless you, and I hope you've been encouraged today. See you soon.